Hey guys. Okay, so today we're talking about the law of attraction and that LOA life, as we call it. And we're talking about manifesting today. This is something that Elle and I have both implemented into our lives and have just sat and watched and observed the magic. Once you get on this manifestation train, it is just like, am I like a magical wizard or like what is happening in my life? Like, I can't even believe this is true. So it's too good not to share. So today we're going to get in, we're actually going to do a two part series. First one is manifesting and like what does that mean? How does the law of attraction work? And we're also going to talk about our experience with it. So I'll let you start, Elle. Like, what does the law of attraction mean to you?
Yeah, so, a lot of people poo poo it because they're like, this is a pseudoscience or it's too easy to be true. Oh, it's pretending. Like, I just think of a jaguar and it shows up in my driveway. That's such BS. Well, those are the people that are
Yeah,
skeptics.
right.
And like I said in my book, no one ever built a statue to a skeptic, right? It was always the people that we believed that
Yep.
something was possible. So what it really is it's really like we get whatever we focus on, right? Like attracts like.
Yep.
And there's so
Right.
much more to this. So before anyone's out there going, well, what about this? What about that? We will bring up some of the like classic objections to this or how it works. So it's about energy. We are energy beings. One of the things I like to point out in this is that people are already it's believing in something you can't prove or see, but you only are proven through doing it. And so one of those examples would be like if anyone else is religious or believes in God. Well, that's believing in something that doesn't have any science. There's no scientific proof.
Hmm.
There's also something too. Every day, Tara, I'm sure when you go to bed, you are not freaking out that the sun is not going to rise tomorrow. You're not like, oh my
Right.
God, well, what if it doesn't rise tomorrow? And what if I don't have another day? Why? Because the sun has risen every day prior. That's a belief you and I have. Although technically, do we have proof that it will?
Nope.
Not
Right.
really. Most scientists would go, well, but look, an asteroid, well, we don't know what's going on. There's so many unknowns out there. What if just like an explosion happens in our galaxy? Okay, so all that can happen. But why do we believe it? Again, it's a belief that has been fostered over decades and years and hundreds of years of it happening. So goes the same for a belief you have about yourself, right? Like, well,
Hmm.
I'm never going to get
Yep.
there. I've always been broke. I've always attracted the wrong guys. I've always been never been promoted for these jobs. Those are all beliefs based on just a history. But if you
Yeah.
just really look at it, we all believe in things that we can't see. One of them would be like the sun rising tomorrow. That's a basic kind of philosophical notion. And then something else along that effect is when you talk to astrophysics and people that do those shows about the cosmos and the science behind it. What they've been able to do is they've been able to show, and they can show on a screen, like this is what a map of the universe that we know it as now looks like. When you look at this picture that they've rendered, it's all looks like just electrical, kind of patterns. What's in between those electrical patterns is black. It's just nothing. That's dark matter. Dark matter is something that you cannot actually test. They can't measure it, so it's an unseen, untestable thing, but it's holding the universe together. It's literally the thing, the glue that's binding all of that in our universe together. So again, something we can't see, we can't prove, we can't measure, but we know exists. So this does take a little bit of leap of faith into believing in something you kind of can't see. And that's tough for a lot of people. But I'll say this, the people that I know that have said, you know what? F it. I'm going to try it. I'm just going to take a leap of faith and see, what does it hurt? What do I have to lose? Those are the people that live extraordinary lives. The friends and the people that I know that have always poo-pooed it from the beginning and like, that's BS, that's a joke, who've never looked into it, who've never really tried it, I see their lives. It's not going in the forward direction. So
Yep.
that's just a blanket, we can get into specifics, but that's how beliefs are, right? So this is something that when I first learned about it, I was like, this seems like way too easy, right? My friend gave me the audiobook of The Secret. I was going through a very tough time. And this is a Harvard, Berkeley educated person who doesn't BS me and said, listen, just trust me. And I did. And when I started to implement, these tenets, life
Yeah.
exploded into the most amazing direction. So it's really about using the power of your mind and your thoughts and your emotions to create and affect reality. There is a co-creative factor we don't know about. Some people might call it God. You can call it the universe, because we see that some things happen for reasons of which we cannot explain. Or you might try to manifest something and it comes in another form that you would not have expected. But when you look back later, you realize, oh, that was even better than what I put out there. So there is some really weird, spooky co-creative effect, and you can call it what you want. So there are some unknowns in here, but we can work within the knowns and affect change. That is the truth. You literally can create your own reality. There are also physical limitations. If I get my arm cut off tomorrow, I can't manifest a new arm. There are like legit physical, I can't be like, I want to learn how to fly. Like, I want to fly. Okay. Humans can't fly. That's just probably not going to happen. However, I bet that if you were going to go down that road, someone would show up somewhere and be like, hey, I got this like bat suit. You want to go? You'd probably be like, fuck no, I'm not going to go flying with that. So there are some limitations. There are some mechanics. We can't defy gravity and certain laws that are out there, but there also is this unknown element. And I just ask everyone to be sort of open to that, and we'll go through some objections. But what would you say when you first kind of went into this? What was your first hit at it? And were you like, yeah, BS? Because I know, you were a proselytizing Mormon for many years, right? We've talked about this on the show. So you were already in a major belief system with some text, with deep in it. So I'm curious to see, like, one would think, like, how did you even get to believe in something unseen again?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. Because when I first was exposed to like the movie The Secret, I was so turned off by it.
Totally.
I was so repulsed. It was introduced to me by somebody who had an MLM, right? So I was just like, I hate MLMs so bad. Like, I literally can't listen to anything you're saying right now. Multi-level marketing is what
you're talking about, right?
Yeah, multi-level marketing. Exactly. Yes. So I rejected it. I remembered going to the parking lot and being like, oh, maybe I'll get the front spot. Oh, it happens sometimes. Oh, sometimes it doesn't. This stuff is all BS. Right. So that was pretty much my attitude towards the law of attraction for a long time. And then after I left Mormonism and I went through a bunch of crazy life stuff, I actually was introduced to this book. And if you guys are watching us on YouTube, you can see what I'm holding up. But this book was introduced to me by my friend Drew Manning in a really crazy life crisis time. And it's called The Art of Living by Bob Proctor. And Bob Proctor is, one of the top in the world for law of attraction. And I had, it was a very spiritual time for me. Like, I had hit rock bottom. And I remember just sitting on the floor in my bedroom, just reading this book and feeling my soul shift. Feeling the shift. And in this book, he talked a lot about Think and Grow Rich and how he learned so much from Napoleon Hill. And he basically exemplified in this book what the law of attraction did for him in his life. And it was such a beautiful time. Like, if you're at rock bottom right now, law of attraction is your jam. Okay. Like, just jump on that, get this book, The Art of Living. And the reason Drew recommended this to me, cause he's like, I read this book and like magic shit just started happening all over the place in my life. Like, I couldn't even believe how good my life started getting. And, at the time I was doing a lot of hiking and walking in like a very wealthy area of Salt Lake City with all these like billionaires' homes. And it was really cool to be at ground zero and walk around in this area and just think, why can't I have this? Like, I'm smart and kind and good and loving and intelligent and talented. Like, why can't I have this? Why do I think somewhere in my soul that only other people can have this lifestyle? Like, do I even want this lifestyle? And is there a part of me that believes that I couldn't have it? That's not okay. And that's where it starts with me. That's law of attraction to me isn't about like, it's like, be wise about it. Knowing once you start to get into it, you really realize that you can have what you want. But think about what you really want. And this is what I really want to hit on with this, is that for me, the first step of being in alignment with the law of attraction is letting go of a lot of things, of getting into alignment, doing deep work like meditation. Really simple. Meditation is the deepest work you can do. And if you're not doing it consistently, I know, I get it. I am super overachiever, action oriented. I love to get shit done. It makes me feel so good. I want to go, go, go. I love to go fast. That's why I meditate. So that in all my fastness and all my doing and all my overachieving, I'm not wandering down aimless roads. It's what aligns me. It purifies. It's like, I'm not trying to think during my meditation, but just the alignment happens. I feel bullshit fall away. I feel enlightenment come in, and I feel that steadiness throughout the day. Because once you start to meditate, that happens to you throughout the day. You have a reactionary thing like, wow, I want that, or wow, I hate that. And you question it for a second. You actually start to become the observer of your thoughts. And this is where the magic happens, because law of attraction really is understanding and admitting that your subconscious is running the show. It really is. It really is. Like all that, because it's really very practical. The law of attraction is super, super practical. It's like basic to me. It's very basic steps of understanding what you want, understanding your soul's purpose, understanding how you want to live your life. It's not that hard. It's like a lot of it to me is like very basic principles of like writing down a plan. That's how it's been in my life. It's not anything like, wow, that was so crazy. It's like, no, I actually sat and thought for like 10 minutes what I want and don't want in my life, and like wrote it down and made some, and then started repeating that to myself. It's extremely practical, but nobody teaches this. Like, I wish there was a law of attraction class from kindergarten to graduating as a high school senior, that for, an hour every single day, kids were taught this, how to actually be in alignment with what they want and to achieve that. And I will share something really kind of interesting. Like, so this was my intro, The Art of Living by Bob Proctor. As soon as I started reading this and living by this, all of a sudden I started getting hit up by people who were working with Bob Proctor. I started getting more into that realm. And now, like, I have some partnership going with a guy who used to be Bob's #1 consultant for a long time, now does his own personal development coaching system. He's amazing. I've been doing his work for the last 6 months. And he was like, oh, that was your first book here. And he gave me this signed copy from
awesome.
Bob and Sandy Gallagher. And it was just like, this was just like a couple months, like a month ago, maybe. So it was like just such a cool full circle thing. I feel like once you get on this vibe, you find that there's like these little gifts from the universe saying like, yes, you're on the right path. Keep going, keep going, keep going, So that was my initial resistance was high, but now I'm like, no, I'm all in.
Yeah. So Bob Proctor's a great one. I think on this podcast, we're going to mention lots of people for books and things like that. So when you talk about the power of subconscious mind, some of the earliest people on that were like Dr. Joseph Murphy, Florence, Scovel, Shinn, The Game of Life and How to Play It. Now, I will warn everybody, they do use the word God, which, by the way, turns a person like me off in general. Okay. But I was able to get over that hump. I replace it with universe or whatever. Just understand that they're talking about source energy or this unknown energy. But in those days, back in the 60s and 70s, they couldn't write about this stuff if they didn't put the word God in there. Right. So just and what I love about Florence Scovel Shinn and Dr. Joseph Murphy's books is that each one has specific real life examples of people who just turned their thinking around and it came about. And here's the thing. Everyone here notices when you're on fire in life, like you're like, man, I'm on a freaking roll. Shit's coming in. Like, okay, that's because you're enthusiastic. You're excited. It's because you're dominant vibration. That's why it keeps getting more. And you're like, oh my God, things keep coming in.
Right.
Then you get off track and you go down and then something negative happens. You stub your toe. Now you rear end someone and you can see how it can spiral the other way. So this is continuous work because you can get off track. But the idea is, are you going to be a deliberate creator in your life or just let things happen? And most people don't believe that they can deliberately intend and create. For the people that really need science, by the way, so Law of Attraction, so The Secret, I've read every book by all those speakers. I think that's what's great about that audiobook, because, you learn about Bob Proctor and Jack Canfield, Lisa Nichols. I never knew that I would be a writer, like a book writer or a podcaster or speaker at all at the time that I first listened to all of these people and loved their work. Right. I have now interviewed like 3 or 4 people from The Secret. So it is a full circle for me too, because I'm like, wow, so cool. Some of my favorite authors that I've listened to forever, I got to interview. I mean, it was so amazing how that came full circle. And I didn't necessarily like specifically intend that then, but it's funny how it comes around, or like, you got the association there with Bob Proctor. I just, I feel too, so if you're feeling bored, anxious, stressed out, sad, you're kind of going to be attracting more of the thing. It's just, we have 60 to 90,000 thoughts a day. You cannot monitor all of them. But I guess the biggest indication to start is, what are you thinking about? Right? On the Byron Katie tip, if you're in God's business or someone else's business, it's probably not feeling good, because when you're judging. So thoughts are absolutely create an emotion. For example, if you were to be like, start talking now, and you said, hey, Elle, what are you going to do like when your mom dies, or what does it look like when your mom dies? I'll just start crying talking about, it'll generate an emotion. The thought of that can generate an emotion. Our thoughts generate emotions.
Yeah.
The trick with law of attraction, and this is, I think what people can't get over, is it's not a logical thinking game. It is a vibrational feeling game. So while you can sit there and write lists about all the things you want, or be like, this is what I want, if you're not feeling the feelings of already having it, that's the part of the work. The other side of it too, and one of my favorite authors, and I've taken one of the courses, he's the laziest guy you've ever met in your life, self-admitted laziest person. He wrote a book called Type Z, The Lazy Person's Guide to Manifesting Wealth and Abundance. His name is Marc Allen, M-A-R-C, Allen. He's got a great audiobook called the Millionaire course seminar, and it's like a $4, $5. He is like the laziest person. He's like, I'm not type A. I'm not Tara and Elle. I'm not that person. And he is absolute proof that you can manifest without that. You don't have to be type A. The type A people get caught up when they're trying to do the thing. Manifesting is not trying to manifest. You don't go out and buy a bike today and go, I manifested a bike. No, you bought a bike. You might have, if you manifested the money for it and it came in, great. But you know, trying to do it or making it happen is not really the name of the game, because as you're vibrating emotionally and you're putting out the feelings of whatever you want that's already happened, something will come in to ignite what we call inspired action. That's when the action will be like, you know what? I should call Tara to see if she has a recommendation, or that's inspired action. But the people are like, how do I try to manifest? That's not it. And that's hard to let go of for type A people, but it's also hard for the total type B, Z people who are like, but I'm not a go-getter or whatever. You don't have to be. And again, for those people, look at Marc Allen and what he created in his life. I mean, it's unbelievable how successful he's become. And to this day, he still is like, don't work Mondays, don't come into the office till 12 because I'm lazy and I don't care. Because that's what I want in my life, because that's how I like it. And he has manifested the most amazing things. So he's a great person for those that don't feel that they are in our category. But the pitfall of people in our category is they're trying too hard and they're not in the spiritual, emotional thing of it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I would say that's so well put. And I'd say one of the best books that helped me with that was Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender by David R. Hawkins. I don't know if you've read that, but
David Hawkins is awesome.
It was so good that I would be listening to it on Audible and I would immediately stop everything I was doing, rewind it, lay down and just close my eyes and just like absorb this way of thinking into my soul. I was just like, I need to understand this. This is so beautiful. That book helped me a ton. And even The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer and The Untethered Soul, you know, those books were, at first I was like, oh, I don't really have time to listen to stories like, cause there's a lot of stories, but that the overall impact of those books, the message of it in general is, look what kind of magic can happen when you just let go and surrender to where the universe is trying to pull you. So manifestation, I love what you're saying here, because what I have found is like, there first has to become, it's not just like, I want this, you know. I think when I was like juvenile and praying, it was like, please, can I have a car, God? Please, can I have a car? I want a car. I'm not saying you can't manifest something like that, but it was like not in alignment. It wasn't like I was getting a spiritual download of like, hey, here's part of your soul's purpose. It was like, I want this, you know? And so I have found the things that are the most easy to attract is when they don't even come from me. Like they are aligned.
Yes.
They excite my soul. Like I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I want. That's exactly how I want. But it didn't actually come from me. It came from something bigger than me. And every time that happens, the ripple effect is way beyond me. You know, it's what right now, I'll throw it out there. So we'll see, you know, right now what I'm wanting to manifest that's coming into me are two things: writing a book, which we just talked about yesterday. So writing a book has been coming in like, you got to do it, girl. I'm like, okay, got it. And the other thing is, I want my next house to be my retreat center. Very, very deep, like a deep, deep download. So for my women in hire, women who rise, I want to do retreats. And this has been a year coming. It's not like some things come fast. Some things manifest fast.
And some things have its right timing.
Right.
It just
Yep.
like for example, the podcast with you. I told you and other people I wanted to do a podcast with another co-host for a couple of years now. I knew lots of great people that are still great people I'd love to do with it. I hadn't met you that yet though. Mm-hmm. See, the universe needed to bring me to Salt Lake City so that I could meet you, follow you, and then be like, talk with you. We interviewed each other. And then I was like, it's Tara. Like, I want to do it with her. So people could be like, during that 2 years, people like, when are you going to start your new podcast? And they did. Like, when are you going to? And I was like, I don't know. I will when I'm feeling inspired to. Like you said, you just got inspired to. So
that's right.
You don't want to force stuff. And forcing things as a means to an end won't work either. So if you're like, well, I want to write a book so I could be famous, or I want to write a book so I could be wealthy. That really probably shouldn't be the dominant vibration behind writing it. Not that you couldn't. And I also just want to share too, people in this world, like, I think law of attraction, it even works for people go, well, how is it possible that this guy over here manifested all this money and he's a terrible person and treats their employees terrible? Because he's thinking right about money, because his vibration is right about money. Doesn't mean he's healthy. Doesn't mean he have healthy relationships. Doesn't mean none of it. It just means his vibration about money is on point. He believes he'll receive it. He believes he expects it to happen. He has no lack of faith that he will, but he's still a jerk. So that's why, you know what I mean? It's fair. The life is fair in that way. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of even.
Yeah. And I want to hit on what you said about forcing it. Oh, this is so important to talk about. And I'm going to share a quick story from my friend Josh Trent, who hosts Wellness Force Radio. He was on my podcast talking about this, and it stuck with me for days. I was just like, gosh, that's beautiful. So we all know what to do. We know exactly what is needed. It's just we resist it sometimes because it's scary. So maybe the universe is like, you got to get out of this relationship. You got to get out of this relationship. You got to get out. Come on. You got to get out. And you're like, no, because they're a good person because of this, or that will be scary because I'm financially secure, or whatever it is, or my kids, or whatever. Or maybe the universe is saying, dude, this job is not right for you and you freaking know it. You're miserable. You got to go. And it's probably telling you what you need to do too. But you're like, that's crazy. I can't do that. Fill in the reasons XXXXX, of all the things that you're holding yourself back with, but we know what we need to do. And Josh shared this story where he was, here he was hosting Wellness Force Radio. He's got this successful platform. So it appears, but it's just going down and down and down. He's broke. His relationships aren't working right. Like nothing's working right. He's just like grinding and working so hard and nothing's going well. And at that time, he was very into wellness technology, like the Oura rings and the trackers and the everything technology wise. And he had just had this download at a health conference, and he was just like, I can't do this anymore. This is not aligned with me. Like the energy is so dead here. I just feel like I'm just trying to make money. Like it's not aligned. So he went and he met with this, mentor and teacher, and the guy pulled it out of him. He's like, what's your biggest fear? And he's like, that people will know that I'm not healthy. He's like, well, that's what you need to talk to people about. And he's like, and I'm also afraid to let go of what I'm already building. Like I can relate with that. I've had many things come in that are like, it's time to let that go. And I'm like, no, I've been working so hard for this, and it's like, you got to let it go. You got to let go. But what I have found is you're not really losing anything. You're definitely not losing anything. All the time or money or energy that you spent in that area was very, very much part of your journey for a reason. But if you try to stay there, you limit and stunt your growth and your ability to manifest what's coming next into your life. So I think it's so important. I think
we can be too attached to it. And then there's also the ego involved with like, you've been working on this thing forever and now suddenly you're going to bail on it and you're going to look like, well, again, that's a whole thing about confidence and whatever, but that can trip you up too. But sometimes you have to let go of something for some, and so that is a part of it too, is being true to yourself on that one. That's nagging.
And it doesn't mean you have to like degrade or insult or that thing was wrong or bad. No. Like that thing, I'm sure, was a very, very important part of your journey for a very important reason. But staying in it, we can talk about loyalty. Loyalty is a very interesting word. I think the way that we look at it, loyalty first comes to yourself and to your higher self and to your spirit and to the universe and to this guidance that you're getting. And our, loyalty to our job or even relationships that aren't serving us anymore. I'm like, is that something that you should be proud of? Now, it doesn't mean you can't honor and respect and love that thing for what it was, but clinging to it when it's no longer working and everyone's miserable.
It's resistance.
It's doing that to me is more insulting it for what it was than actually honoring it, seeing the beauty, seeing the good, and letting it go and moving forward with the learning lessons with respect and love. So I think for me, I have definitely learned once I'm enforcing it energy and they're like the energy's dead. The response, I think from a business perspective, everyone's like, no, like we're not interested in this. It's kind of like, okay, all right, cool. Learning lesson, like move on, let's go. Where's the energy, right? And I think that's kind of the story of the entrepreneur, but in every area of our life, following the energy, trying to force it, whether that's with your kids or with your diet strategy, and you're just freaking miserable. Like, don't you think there might be a better way for you? Maybe it's time to let go. So that's such a key point on manifestation, I think, is following the energy. It doesn't mean you don't follow through with things when needed, but you'll know when it's needed to follow through and when the energy has died and you're just still trying to stay in your safety zone.
Yeah. And I would say, so everyone can choose to think differently. You have this power, and in thinking differently, you can focus on things. You're going to lead to what you want. Most of us, if you're even listening right now, you have the same thoughts every day about the same damn stuff. Every day. We all do. It takes an actual effort to go, let me bring some new possibilities in here, because we're usually thinking about the same project, all that kind of stuff. So it's about switching that up. So figuring out what it is that you want. Feeling the feelings of already having it. For example, the only reason we ever want to manifest anything is that we think we're going to be happier in the having of it. That's the only reason we have any desires at all. Okay.
Right.
So, and that's great. Wonderful. But that's the only reason we desire. So law of attraction would say you have to feel the feelings of already, see, if I was happy, then I wouldn't need to I can't get there because I don't have the money. So how am I going to feel? I'm broke. How can I feel wealthy when I'm not? And if I get wealthy, then I'll feel wealthy. And you're like, and this is where the belief situation comes in that trips people up.
Yep.
It is pretending. It is pretending. And pretending effing works. I'm sorry. I'm here to say I have too many examples of this in my life. It is pretending. It's getting into a belief that it's already there. No one needs to know about it. No one needs to know how kooky you are in your closet with your iPhone timer, feeling the feelings of what it's going to be like to have a big dinner party at your house, because that's really what you want the money for. So do you want the money for the house, or do you want the money because the feeling of financial security and what that feels like to feel safe? That's really probably what it is, right? It's what is the feeling associated with what you want. I want enough money because I love taking people out to dinner and hosting dinner parties, and those cost money. Well, great. Then go to the vision of imagining your friends around a table, that end result of it. People are too, and this is where the cursed hows come in, as Mike Dooley says. He's another great author. He did a movie called Thoughts Become Things. He's done many books, and he was a speaker in The Secret. I love him. But then again, it's getting into the cursed hows. You're trying to map out how you're going to manifest something. It often doesn't work that way. That's why it's you put it out there, and then you leave it up to unknown things versus, okay, this is what I want. Now I'm going to do all things to get it. That can happen too. There are some things that are legit. If you and I want to apply to Stanford right now, we got to print out the application. Okay, that's practical stuff. But there's an amazing story that I have from when I first learned The Secret. I was like, all right, okay. I listened to that audiobook 4 times. I was ready for my first vision board. This was like 2007. And at the time, iPhones had just kind of come out-ish, or it was the iPad Touch first. The looked like the iPhone. And then there was the iPod Touch, Touch. And then there was the iPhone. But at the time when I saw the first iPhone, I thought, oh, that looks too big and bulky, but I want an iPod Touch. So I put it up on my vision board, and I just imagined like how cool it would be to have this thing.
I love it.
Long story short, I get a call out of nowhere from somebody I used to work with that wanted me to do some consulting on a new project. And I was like, okay. So I go up to meet them. There is someone that used to be a contractor of mine many years back that I hadn't talked to in like 10 years. And we're like, oh my God, hey, yeah. And he ended up working for Apple. And he literally showed up to the meeting with an iPod Touch because he knew I was going to be there. He's like, I haven't seen Elle. I literally cried. I cried.
That's so crazy.
Now, here's what's even crazier. So I get the iPod Touch and I realize, I actually want the iPhone. Hey, and that can happen too. You manifest something, you get it, and you realize, you know what? I didn't actually really want this. But so I traded it in for an iPhone. then I'm telling my friend Kara the same story. And we were both anti-secret until we weren't. And I telling her about this story. And she goes, I want to manifest a new iPhone too. I'm going to do that. And here's this crazy. I had just done it. So I should have had the belief that anyone can. And I was still even skeptical in that moment. I was like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe only one. Like, I'm not, even though I had just manifested it.
Right.
I was skeptical about her manifesting it. And you're not going to believe how she unbelievable. So she's like, I'm going to do it too. She's in the faith, but it's starting to get close to like Christmas and she really wants a new iPhone. And she's like, all right, well, you know what? It's not happening. That's okay. I'm going to go down to the Apple store and buy one. And as she's about to go to the Apple store, she walks out of her house and she's like, oh, I need to give my next door neighbors their Christmas presents before they leave on vacation. She goes over there. She's like, hey, Merry Christmas. And the woman next door, her neighbor, goes, oh my God, Kara, hold on a second. Brings down a brand new packaged iPhone and says, no, just take this. We got this with Amex points. I'm not going to, they were older. Like, I'm not going to use, I don't know what these things. And she's like, oh my God, do you even understand? I was just on my way to the Apple store to get the iPhone. She calls me crying. She's crying. And I'm going, oh my God, what the fuck? She did it. Like, wow. Holy shit. And so she's crying and she's like, no, can I pay you something? Like, this is insane. Like, oh man, are you kidding me? Because they were like a lot of money. And the woman was like, no, just take it. Just take it. Kara has since manifested amazing things. She's great at the law of attraction too. We were both like, oh my God. I was like blown away because isn't that funny how the magic worked for me? I believed in it. Yet here I am still as skeptical about it, even though I totally believe in the tenet. And I'm so glad it happened to her too, because that really just kicked my ass right there on that. And I was like, okay, never again am I going to not believe something is possible. Two people that are friends with each other, we manifested free out of thin air. Didn't ask for it.
Amazing.
Didn't call anyone. And that's just like the very first one that like the very first thing on the vision board. Another thing I'd put on the vision board at the time, which was going to be really hard. Like I'm like, nope. It's only, if I put this on there, it's only going to be because there's no other way this thing can happen if it's not the universal magic. I love water skiing, and I used to grow up water skiing. I used to teach water skiing, and I love it. But there are no lakes to go water skiing in California. There are only private, like man-made dugout, lakes. There's just, it's not like Wisconsin or other places where you could just go pull up to a dock, pay someone to take you for a couple runs. It just doesn't happen. But I hadn't been water skiing in so long, and I was like, I really want to go water skiing. So I cut out a picture of a woman water skiing and put her head on it. And like had it on my vision board. Yes. And then here's what's funny. I'm randomly like talking to someone that I met online dating. And we're just talking and there's no, it's a buddy vibe. And it's clear that it's a buddy vibe. And then we meet and he's like, you know what? Like, oh no, we didn't even meet yet. He was like, we just got a good vibe. And it was very friendly. And he said, you know what? I'm going water skiing at my friend's I was losing it. He's like, I'm going water skiing at my friend's private lake in Sacramento. If you drive up to Sacramento, I'll meet you and I'll take you up there and we'll camp out in my trailer, like no pressure or whatever. Fun. Now, normally people are like, well, you went away with a stranger. Okay, like I got all the right information. I'm like, send me your driver's license. Like, I'm bet this guy, make sure he's not insane.
I trust you, Elle. And
I did go and I got to water ski on a private lake and have all the runs I wanted. And I mean, literally from this is like 2007, the first two things, free iPhone or free iPod Touch that turned into the free iPhone and a water ski trip, among other things. So that's what made me go, okay, come on. Because of all my years in California, I never even met a guy online who waters. People just don't water ski here. It's just not a thing. You really have to know what's up and you have to know someone who owns one of these private lakes. Right. So it's just really interesting. So many, you can manifest an experience like I did. I just wanted to go water skiing. I didn't want a pair of water skis. I didn't want a boat. I just wanted to go water skiing. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So do you just want to sit on a beach? Do you just want to have a new friend? It doesn't have to be a car or a job, right? It can be something that's not a material item, but is an experience. But what Beautiful. I did is I felt the feelings of what that would be like because I love water skiing. I was just like, oh man, you know? Yeah. So those are just a couple of fun. Those are the initial two stories, not to mention so many others. But the iPhone one always stands out as crazy because my friend goes, great, I'm going to do that too. And I'm like, yeah, right. Total downer. And she did it.
It's amazing. It's like the universe did it perfectly just to give her enough time to really get in the energy, to really go through the whole process. And it's like, okay, we got you. It's like a little final test right at the end.
Right. She's like giving up on her way to the iPhone store. Like, all right, guess it's not going to happen. That's cool. And
yeah. And for me, this, what you're talking about, the feeling, the energy of already, like, I already did it. I already am there. That's where I go. Right. So as soon as whatever I want, I'm like, I am doing that. Like, I've already seen my retreats. I've already seen my book. I've seen people reading. I'm very I need a vision board because I already see. That's how I manifest, is I see it first in my head. Like it just pops in. And I've seen women reading my book. I've seen all of it. And then I just pretend, like you say, that it already is happening right now. And when you're in that energy, now it's like that barrier, that hurdle of like, can I do it? I don't know if I can. It's like, no, I already did, you know?
And Tony Robbins talks like, what are those emotions, right? They're the emotions of like, I'm so proud of myself and I'm so great. Like, right. There's emotions in there. It's not like you just saw it, you felt it. Like those feelings, right? Accomplishment, positivity, helping others, inspiring.
Right. And I did this with my body, and I have my clients do this too. So we do vision goals, right? And so we get very, very detailed about what that means to create a vision goal. And for me, I did this before I knew about law of attraction, before I knew any of it. I just figured it out myself, I guess, as like a nice brain hack to get me what I wanted. And I just started pretending that I was the fit person I wanted to be. When I was trying to make more money, I just pretended that I was a millionaire, you know? So I was like, I'm in this whole total financial, and I was like, so I'm a millionaire running a multi-million-dollar company. What does my day look like today? I mean, that just shifts everything. And so, you know, a lot of times we come from this place of lack, like, especially if you want to talk nutrition and changing your body, it's like, I'm coming from this place of lack and someday I'll get there. No. How about you're there right now? What does she do? How does he act? What does he do today? What do his actions look like that have gotten him that place? Do that today. Right. And
that might be something simple. Like, you normally buy the generic brand of the can of beans, but today you're going to buy the one that's a little bit more expensive. Yeah. These could be little vibrational moves.
True.
That just say, I can afford that. It's a vibrational move. You know, there's a story about a woman, so many great stories, but Florence Shinn, what was it? This woman wanted a horse and she couldn't afford a horse. She didn't know how it was going to happen, but she went and bought a crop. Right? It was the only thing she could afford, like the one tool you might need, right? Or you want a dog, go buy a puppy collar, right? You know, there can be like useful little visualization tools or things that you can do to kind of intend and put the forward motion. We'll talk more about that in the second one. I think what's interesting is that, again, that feeling of like, how will you feel once you've already arrived, right? And then what would you be doing throughout that day? Like you just said, like, what would my life be like if I had more money or I didn't have this job or whatever it is? Who would I be spending time with? You know what I'm saying? Right. So you can also manifest things without having your whole life cleaned up. But I will say you will become a better manifester when you do all that barnacle scraping we've previously talked about. You're getting rid of the downers. You're getting rid of the victim mentality. You are doing all of these things. You are going to become a much better manifester in every way. And it is, for the people that feel like they need science behind this, people say it's a pseudoscience and there's no science. There actually is. There's a great book called The Intention Experiment by Lynn McTaggart. And she was like, all right, whatever. If this law of attraction stuff is real, then let me see if there's any experiments on it because I'm not buying it. And she was an investigative reporter. So she wrote a whole book on it and it's fascinating. And what it really does show through all of these studies that were corroborated many times over the world is that intention properly used with the proper vibrational, output absolutely can sway intention from getting rid of cancer cells in petri dishes to like whatever it is. The biology of belief, you can affect your body. Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza has one of the most amazing stories of being hit by a car. His body is mangled.
Seriously.
All of his people around him were like, you have to get the surgery. You never. And he doesn't listen to any of them. And he says, if I believe, and because he already had the belief that we did, he's like, I'm going to repair my body through my mind. And he sat there in a bed and he literally every day just went through it. And he was walking in like 6 weeks. And since then, I mean, he's a famous guy. Everyone should look him up. So, yeah.
Seriously, amazing. And I love hitting this on health, too, because here's the thing. Like, you really, really have to believe it. Like, I know people, it's like, it's a process, right? But it's once you can get there. I learned, I think you learn in the path of, probably a lot of people listening to us are health geeks, right? Because that's probably how they found us. But, as you start to learn all these things, there can be these times of like, wow, I wonder if that's going on with me. Wow, I wonder, you get a little hypochondriac about stuff. And I learned how important it was for me not to ever get into that zone. Like, oh, I wonder if this bad thing will happen because I'm doing that, because once you become educated, it's like all these possibilities come in your head. And I just immediately was like, nope. I'm so freaking healthy. And it's been so liberating to be in that energy of just truly, truly knowing it. It's like, once you can know it deep in your soul, I don't just believe this. This is scientifically proven that your DNA changes in expression in accordance to your thoughts. So this is beyond just woo-woo stuff. We've proven it over and over and over again. And if it's like, okay, if we can change our immune function or our healing or our DNA expression through our thoughts, you think you can't manifest a freaking iPhone?
I'm glad you, I want to highlight this real quick. I was going to bring that up too. I'm so glad you did. Aside from the sun rising example, there is also we know for sure that stress affects the immune system in how it affects cortisol, adrenals, everything else. We know this. In fact, any doctor will even tell you this.
Yep.
Okay. So what does that mean? Stress is the thoughts, because you can have two people that have the same situation. They both get fired. One is stressed out and is pumping out all of the negative things that are affecting them negatively, and one is not. One is going to fare better than the other. They are both creating their future reality in their body. So just taking the stress example alone should show you, well, you might not see the direct correlation, but it's there. We know it's there, and that's been proven. That is science. And that just bleeds into the other, right? So your thoughts do affect matter. If your thoughts affect body, they can also affect outward. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So I just wanted to highlight that.
And they affect your actions, of course, right? So first you have the thought, then you have the feelings, then you have the actions. So if I believe that I'm going to be depressed and lonely and overweight the rest of my life and no one's ever going to love me and all I'm ever going to attract is douchebag guys and have this horrible life and I'm always going to be poor, all of my actions are going to reflect that.
And you're going to manifest that, right?
I am. So why am I going to be in the why am I going to be in the energy of saying no to some offer that is what I deem beneath me on dating? Sorry. Or why am I going to, am I going to go out and just conquer a mountain and hike up it and make really good food choices when I'm in the energy of I'm just going to be fat and miserable and unhappy the rest of my life? Of course not. So changing our energy first, our belief, then all of our actions are going to start following suit. And that's so key for manifesting. Again, we don't have to. I've definitely learned that it's not all you, Tara. Right. Guess what? We got some good stuff for you. These guides or whatever it is, this energy that I feel, I've definitely been taught hey, we love you. We adore you. You're doing an amazing job. You're not doing all of it. Some of it comes from other places too. So just receive when it comes. Okay. And, I'll share a quick story on that. I recently had a marketing partnership dissolve and it was very difficult for me. And in past before that, I had situations where I was, disappointed by, I'm not necessarily saying this past one, but I've been disappointed by some of the attitude that I've seen in marketing, especially in the health and wellness space. I don't know if it's my Libra-ness and justice or what it is, my Wonder Woman side, but when something's not just and true. And if it's the least little bit slimy, I'm no, I'm fine. I would rather not be successful then. If that's what it takes, count me out. I'm good. I'll just stay right where I'm at, not doing it. So, I had to make a lot of hard decisions in the last couple of years of my life because of that. And it was so funny. This last hard decision that I made, within 2 weeks, one of my friends who has grown multi-million-dollar brands in our industry texted me out of nowhere. 2 weeks, I made one of the hardest decisions of my life. He texted me I haven't talked to him in 2 years. He texted me and he's like, hey, guess what? I want to start doing all heart-based marketing. I'm sick and tired of the way the industry is. Like, I hate all the disrespect I'm seeing. I want to show and prove that we can show people respect and honor them and still build something successful that changes people's lives. You're the first person I thought of. What you up to these days? I'm like,
right. Random or not. No, it's not. And by the way, when people go, oh, well, that's a coincidence. Well, actually, if you look at the definition of coincide in mathematics, it's two angles that go together. It's not random. They go together. That story right there. And also I love it because it's a two-parter. You let go of an attachment to something that was not working, that didn't feel out of integrity, regardless of a million people saying this is how it's done. Right. And then you were like, you know what? No, you honored yourself, left it unknown to a better opportunity. And here's where there's the magic. It came in. You didn't push for it. You didn't go looking for it. You weren't like, all right, now I got to get on the phone and try to figure out the opposite to this thing because I don't want this marketing. You were just like, no, I'm not going to do that. It doesn't feel right. And it came in, and that's the amazing stuff. You'll get the phone call that will inspire you. You'll get a call out of nowhere. This is what happens.
Yes. And I think, I thought of you, Elle, when this happened, because you talk about how we get, what do you call it?
Prizes. You got a prize for pro you move. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely thought of you. I was like, this was a prize. And the scary thing of letting go is it's easy to let go or it's easier to let go when you feel like you know for sure what you're jumping into. It's difficult to let go and you got nothing else to replace it with. You're just like, this isn't right. And I've got to choose alignment now. And your soul, it'll keep asking you to do it. It'll just, it's patient, it's kind of like if you have a dog and the dog's just kind of like waiting and looking and smiling. That's how I feel like our higher self or our guys are just kind of like, yeah, like, come on, like I'll be patient, but I'm just going to kind of keep reminding you that you need to do that thing. And it's for your own good because we love you, And so when you do that scary thing, you don't have anything else on the table. That's when you create space. And I'm very intuitive. So I felt it coming. Like it was like incoming, something's coming and you have no freaking idea what it is, girlfriend. You have no idea. Just be aware. And what was really cool is that I feel like the universe always gives us little signs to kind of say like, yeah. So the last two books that I just read were The Surrender Experiment and The Untethered Soul. And this guy, when he called me, he's mid-conversation. He's like, yeah, I just read The Surrender Experiment. It really it inspired me to get out of these relationships and these other business relationships.
And the universe will drop you a little nugget like that to be like, we know. It's from us. By the way, this gift is from us, not just you. It's from us to you. It's a co-thing. It's cool. That's so great. Because it lets you know, like, that was because of me, I think I want to bring up a couple objections. So, people are like, okay, so they say, oh, it's a frequency. What frequency you're on? We're like a radio tower. What are you vibrating? You've got to be a match to the thing you want, right? If it's a high vibrational thing, you got to be matched to it. And then some people go, oh, really? Well, my brother died on the plane that went right into the trade tower during 9/11. What, you think he was thinking about death? You think how dare you say that he attracted that into his life? This also goes to the unknown. I will talk about a tragic event right now that happened that seemingly was horrible that turned out to be good, and perhaps this is the reason for it. I've had a couple friends that have gotten murdered in life, unfortunately. I grew up in a very major city, a lot of people with guns, gangbangers, something sketchy. Anyway, one of my friends on the East Coast got murdered by an ex-boyfriend. She was shot in the head. Horrible. She was the nicest person, so it made no sense. Like, why? Yeah. Like, the night, like, everyone loved Anne. Of all the people, like, some people you're like, no, everyone loved her. So we were just like, are you kidding? Long story short, the group of friends and I, that we were all camp friends, she was a part of it. When she died, we all got brought together in a way that I can say that probably would not have happened had she not died. We would have probably all lost touch and never whatever. And somehow this event has brought, we still do weekly Zooms. We still have a text thread. We would have never stayed in touch the way that we have as a tight-knit group had it not been for Anne's murder. Now, I'm not saying her death was the sacrifice to bring the friends together. I'm just saying there was something positive that came out of it. The other side I'll share with you is this. When we learned later, she was in fear. She was in fear of him. They had broken up for a year, but he had threatened her and she didn't go to the cops. She didn't tell her friends. She was too embarrassed about the situation to speak up about it. I'm not blaming her for being a victim of murder, but I am saying I'm not surprised she was in a state of fear that she didn't go get help about. So I'm not totally shocked. Long story short, the lucky thing in that situation was that he came and shot her and her current boyfriend, and her current boyfriend's father was like the head of NYPD homicide, so they found him. And he's in jail forever.
Wow.
So, but, again, that was a horrible thing. Like, how could Anne have been on that frequency? Like, she's a nice person. Like, how could that have happened to her? But also, something positive came out about it. The other example would be like Bethany Hamilton. She got her arm bitten off by a shark when she was 13. She was an avid surfer. She still is. Did she attract? Oh my God, how can you say, like, was she in there thinking about a shark attacking her that day? She probably wasn't, but I'll say this about her life. If you were to ask Bethany now if she would ever go back in time and change it, she'd say no. Because her arm getting bitten off by that shark led to her being a global representative for amputees all over the world. Kids. She has camps with kids with people with one legs and arms coming to surf with her in Hawaii. She travels the world talking to Army vets. Her reach is so much farther than it ever would have been had she been a two-armed surfer. And again, I'm not saying, but it's not about blaming the victim. A lot of people can accuse LOA, aficionados like us of like, well, you're blaming the victim or it's your fault. And I'd say if something negative happens, it's like, all right, well, I was somehow in this frequency. And instead of just blaming it, it's more about like, well, let's see what this is going to mean. Because like I've said before, my hand's getting injured, having hypothyroidism, horrible things, couldn't see the positives for a while, but they are the best things that ever happened to me for my life. I'd never go back and change it. So again, we can't always immediately interpret the reason behind a negative attraction.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, kids. So death is like, oh, you're not allowed to talk about death, Elle. Like, oh,
right.
That's so insensitive. Okay, so right here in this very spot that I'm sitting right now on Easter Sunday, I get a text from this lady that goes to church with my mom. By P.S., my mom's in a nursing home right now. She's had a major stroke. She's lost most of her memory. Her dementia is pretty advanced. She doesn't remember living in Virginia for like most of her adult life. So it's pretty advanced. So she's already pretty weak, and she has type 2 diabetes. And of course, she's not on keto like I would love her to be because she's in the nursing home and I just can't freaking make it happen. I have tried and they're just like, here's cookies. They literally gave her a honey bun. Like, I'm just like, I can't even. That's a whole nother episode.
That's like 10 episodes. Yeah.
Oh. So I get this message from this lady that goes to church with my mom, and it's like kind of towards the beginning of the COVID stuff. And she's like, hey, have you heard from your mom? And I was like, yeah, a couple days ago. And she's like, well, I was just calling because my uncle who's in the nursing home with your mom just passed away from COVID this morning. And I was like, oh my gosh. She's like, yeah, you might want to just double check. And I knew my mom had been tested, but they hadn't given us the results. They're really dragging their feet. So I call, I'm like, hey, can we get results? And she's like, oh, what's your mom's name? And she's looking it all up and she's like, someone will call you. I'm like, oh gosh, like, I think I know what that means. So I get a call back and she's like, yeah, your mom tested positive. And, it was kind of not the best light to get that information and finding out someone like right down the hall from her just died from it. And my mom's already in poor health. Right. So immediately, of course, my brain goes to, I'm going to lose my mom. This is it. Like, she's old. She's in poor health. She has diabetes. Like, I'm going to lose my mom. And I started crying. Just bawling my eyes out because I have some of my personal business goals and financial goals are around her and helping her and taking her to Hawaii and like all these things, right? So I was like, I'm too late. I'm like bawling my eyes out, and I immediately, like, the universe or whatever that voice is that comes in, that thought that comes in, it said, do you honor your path? And I'm on this magical journey. And do you honor your path? And I was like, yep. And it was like, then why would you want to block hers? And immediately I stopped crying immediately. I was just like, oh yeah, that's true. I don't want to block hers because I do see death as a transition, not an ending, right? Of course I will miss her, but if that's her path, if that's part of her, divinely guided path and journey, why would I want to block that? And so, maybe these tragic endings, I've had tragic endings in my life, family and friends also. And, maybe that's part of their path for a reason. And we get so like wronged, we feel so wronged that these things happen. We're so sad, but like maybe, it's a horrible sacrifice for us because we're left behind thinking, gosh, that sucks. That's so sad. But maybe that happened exactly for a reason in their life. So I think, if you honor, once you get on your path, I think that's probably why you're saying like, oh, you LOA LOA like a-holes. Like why you guys are being so insensitive about death. But when you honor the magic and divinity and, whatever you want to call it of your path that you're on, and you see how everything happens for your greatest good, when tragic things happen, I think you're able to deal with them a little more easily because you're like, dude, I promise there was a higher purpose in that, even though it seems awful, because I have seen over and over and over in my life that as horrible, quote unquote, horrible, awful things happen, it's like the best thing that could have ever happened in the long run. So it kind of makes you immune and invincible to total devastating heartbreak, because the degree of faith that you have in greatest good just becomes tremendously higher than it ever was before. Oh, Elle, I can't hear you again.
Because I accidentally pressed the mute button. Sorry.
Okay.
I was going to say, I love that, because then look, it's not to say that tears can't be shed when someone dies and you just don't accept it, or that there's not going to be losses. But when you're at where we're at with our faith and the belief in the law of attraction and manifesting, through that pain, you go, I know something good's going to happen, or it'll be revealed to me at some point. You trust in the fact that it is what it is. Again, that's part of perhaps another part of your life you can't even know yet. And again, not knowing you're okay with that, you don't need the answer as to why it happened, despite how horrible at the time it may be. Of course, I would love my friend Anne back, but I also can't deny the incredible positive that she left our group of friends.
Yeah. And I think honoring that in her path and the gift of her life is the best thing that you can do, instead of just be chronically feeling like you were wronged. Everyone was wronged, like that it's kind of like what I was saying at the beginning of the episode, like when we don't want to let go of situations, we don't want to let go of things. We want to cling to them. We want to cling to people's lives too. And we all know none of us are getting out of here alive. Okay. None of us are getting out of this thing alive. So like clinging to it so hard, I think is, I do think it's a little bit of lack of course it's lack of awareness on our end, because nobody really knows what happens after, right? So it is definitely that unknown. But just like, when I walked away from things in my life that I'm like and I had to step into the unknown, all I have ever found is that stepping into the unknown is 100 million times better than you ever would have imagined. And I just have to believe that that's what it is like after we pass, because like I've just learned that lesson over and over and over. Step in the unknown. Wow. 10x your life. Step in the unknown. 10x your life. So I think that that's what happens after we leave, but that's just my personal belief. But knowing that really helps me, I feel like, deal with death better, because I'm like, dang, they're probably freaking loving it right now, and when you can get in that energy, it becomes a much more honoring energy of their life and their expansion and their progression, instead of just clinging to something that isn't reality anymore.
And speaking of death, like I used to be very, afraid of dying in certain circumstances. Like I think that's why I had a horrible fear of flying for a long time. I still don't love it sometimes, but I think it was because I was like, I didn't want to die. But I will say this, and it's completely shifted so it's been over 10 years that I've been studying continually and practicing law of attraction, learned so many things along the way. My life, since I have learned about that until now, I can tell you right now that if I died tomorrow, God forbid, well, I would love to keep living because I love freaking life. I'd be so happy about the life I've lived up until here, because it's been filled with so many amazing things because of the law of attraction. So, wow, and I'm young. And if I feel good about like, what, I'd feel great. I experienced amazing things that have happened, from swimming to dolphins, like whatever, and I just amazing things that came up. And so that's really the goal too, is perspective, being happy. I feel like obviously it does take monitoring some thoughts. I want to touch briefly on language. So people get messed up with, again, it's a vibrational universe. So if you're joking around with people, and I say something, you're like, oh my God, totally, like watch, I get on the plane and there'll be like some whatever sitting next to me. You wouldn't be like, oh, don't do that, you're going to manifest it. Because like, that's not my vibe. My vibe is I'm joking around about it. And I think sometimes people do like, oh, let the universe hear you. Like, be careful what you say. Now, words do have power, and it's important. If you wake up every morning and look in the mirror, you're like, man, I have to lose weight. Well, okay, you might always be in a situation where you have to lose weight. There might be a better way to phrase that, like I'm in the process of creating the body I want, or I'm in the process of releasing weight. There's a great book called Words Have Power. But again, I feel like people are too like, oh, don't say that. It's like the universe, God, whatever you call it, knows you and knows your vibration. That's the other reason you
Right.
can't put out a desire and have an opposite vibration going on,
That's
because you
right.
can't chump the universe. You can't trick it. It knows how you feel. So,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
words have power, but sometimes it's funny because people can be like, I've said this before to other like LOA friends and teachers who will be like, oh my God, don't say that, because, and I'm like, I'm not, the universe knows what my vibration is behind that. I'm also a comedian. I have sick freaking joke to talk with my friends.
Right.
I have terrible sense of humor. Like, the universe knows me. It knows I'm not like really meaning these, so it is. It's what's your
Totally.
dominant vibration. I could also be like, oh, Tara, yeah, you're really, really, really smart, and not mean a damn thing that's coming
Right.
out of my mouth.
Right.
Like, so,
Right.
so words have power, but they also don't. It's really what your vibration is.
Yes.
And words
Yes.
go along with that. So if you're telling
That's
yourself like, you knock over the water later, you're like, God, you're so stupid. Okay. Yeah. Let's stop
Yeah.
talking to ourselves like this. But at the end of the day, it's not like you need to phrase everything perfectly or even be super clear. And we'll probably talk about this in the next one, which is like getting clear about what you want. But you can also be like, this or something better. Or I just want this feeling. And if there's something else, because if you're too attached to, again, this cursed how it has to happen, how it has to come about, you would have never gotten the phone call from that person out of, quote, nowhere.
Yeah. And that letting go, I think, to get to that vibration you're talking about, the universe is wise. It sees through us. We're children.
That's
we're
right.
babies. We're infants. I think we chose that. I think we like it. I think it's fun for us to come down here and not know. I think we're all eternal, wise. I think we know everything. So how fun would it be to, if we live for eternity, each Earth life? I have no idea if we have multiple lives or any of that, but like each Earth life would be like a freaking nap dream. It'd be so short. So how fun would it be? But I think that the first step to getting onto that vibration of what you really want is, what do you need to let go of? If you want to get on that vibration of who you really are, I think we'll close with that. I just want to ask you, what do you need to let go of? Something popped in your mind when I said that. What was it? That's the first
And
thing
it could
to
be a
tackle.
feeling. Are you letting go of feeling a victim? Are you letting go of a potential relationship you have to divorce yourself from? It could be letting go of a way of thinking, a religion in your case, or whatever. I agree. That's the best thing. What can I let go? And then what would I want? Like the experiment of like, Marc Allen always says, like, okay, 5 years from now, and you could have anything you want. Don't worry about logistics, realistic. Don't care if it's a private jet, whatever. Nothing. Don't care how you can afford it, lottery win or not. Just what would you like your life to look like? And that's just a great exercise, because there's so many things you see in that exercise that you have held yourself back from. You know what I mean?
Right.
But again, the letting go thing is really important, because it could be an attitude towards money. Right.
Right. Because if there's something, whatever popped in your mind, it's messing up your vibration. I promise. If there's something in you that you're like, yeah, I know I need to let go of it. Oh, you got to you might not need to let go of it forever. You might not. You might just need to learn some lessons in the process of actually deciding to do that. I was listening. Oh, I forgot that guy's name. I'll have to look it up. But there was a guy that I was watching this morning, and he's like some men's, he coaches men. What was his name?
David
I forgot.
Deida?
No, he's big, but he said, he was talking to some guy about going on he called it a feminine cleanse. Maybe somebody knows what I'm talking about, who this guy is, but he was teaching this guy at some conference, to go on a feminine cleanse for 6 months and to completely let go of wanting a relationship. Ooh, I love this, because I'm kind of doing that right now. I'm about 2 months in. I just freaking can't do it. I just don't want to. And it's been such a fascinating experience to actually delve into, what if I never have a relationship again? Ooh, that's a scary thought that a lot of us don't want to be in. Letting that go completely. I know I've gone through many stints of this, and every single time I have, the vibration of the type of people that I'm attracting and attracted to goes it's so much better. It's so much better because I'm not needy. I'm not trying. I'm not forcing it. I'm like, maybe this could work. Like that would, nope. It's like once you don't need it, that's when things come in that are way better than you ever could have imagined before. So like letting go, it's just these, you might not have to let go of a relationship forever, but maybe for like 6 months,
Right.
Maybe you need to stop working out so much. Oh, what kind of, if there's fear around it, if there's fear, like, oh my gosh, but what, everything would get worse in my life if I let that thing go. I promise you may just need to let it go temporarily, and you may see, you know what, actually, okay, I just had weird energy. I just had a weird vibration around that thing. I was just in this, like, I need that energy. And once you let it go and realize you don't, maybe you can have it come and go in your life and be in a much more clear place, but whatever comes to your mind, that's what I'm always asking myself. When something pops in my mind, like, you need to let that go, I'm paying I'm paying so much attention to that thing, because it's like, that I realize that there's resistance, there's stress, there's all of the lower vibration emotions are coming in when I think about that thing. I got to let it go. And maybe sometimes that's a person, sometimes that's relationships. It's like, okay, this is not, so how do I feel
sometimes
right now?
It's like you need to let go of watching the news or exposing yourself to something.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Or, like, maybe you need to let go of keto. Maybe you need to let go of, it could be something that if your vibration, if there's fear around it, you might want to consider at least temporarily letting that thing go just to fix your vibration, and then you can move on. So anyway, I'll leave it at that, because we're going to go to part 2. Is there anything you wanted to say in closing on this one?
I just want to rattle off a couple of, we talked about Bob Proctor. There's The Secret, the audiobook and the movie. There's also The Power by Rhonda Byrne. There's Mike Dooley. Old School, Florence, Scovel, Shinn, The Game of Life and How to Play It. Old School is also Dr. Joseph Murphy. He's The Power of the Subconscious Mind, has a bunch of books. Marc Allen, M-A-R-C, Allen, I mentioned. He's amazing. I actually took a course from him. He wrote The Millionaire. We mentioned him. So anyway, I just wanted to mention a few of those. Yeah. And there's so much more. I have a list of these things of books that continue to fuel me. But I would just say, get into this work, people, because the magic is pretty amazing. And you have nothing to lose. You don't need to tell anyone. No one needs to think you're crazy or weird. You could do it all inside, and no one needs to even know you're doing this crazy hippie-dippy experiment.
Yep, exactly. And then you don't tell them until you're like, guess how I got an iPhone.
Exactly.
And then it's cool,
Exactly.
right? And there's no risk, because if you don't get the iPhone, it's all good. Like, try again. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Elle. Those are some amazing, powerful stories. And we're going to, in this next part 2 of this, we're going to talk about intention. We're going to talk a little bit more about the action side of things, about the practical side of things. So join us for part 2 on the power of intention and getting the things that you want out of your life. And I love, Elle, I just have to say before we go, one thing I love about you is, like, when you talk to the universe, you're like, give me a bone.
I'm like, throw me some shit. Yeah, I'll have to tell that story in the next one.
I love it, because I guarantee your spirit guides or whatever, like, they know you. They're like, okay, Elle.
We'll get you what you want.
Love it. So, all right, guys, we'll get into that in the second episode. So we'll leave it here for today.